Well, hello, welcome
Hey,
to
what's up, Mary?
the Magic School Pod. So fun. I met Ryan at PAX 8 Beyond, and it was really fun. Lots of mutual friends for sure. But wanted to have Ryan on from the title of it, from laid off to being lifted up. Do you want to tell everybody what that means?
Yeah, so first off, I'm Ryan. Yeah, so I worked at another vendor for 3 years. I was early on with them, and as the title suggests, I was laid off, and I was laid off back in January. And interestingly enough, that actually became kind of a blessing in disguise, and one of the best things that happened to me, both from like a personal confidence standpoint and a career standpoint. To give a bit of context, so my last company, my company before, let's start where I even started. I was at Auvik Networks for a little bit. And Auvik, when I joined, was just doing their like 10-year anniversary. So they were a very established company. And I'll say I had a bit of an ego where I was like, I'm the greatest at what I do, and nobody can do onboarding better than me. And then I had the opportunity to move to this new company that was a startup, a small company. I was like employee 26 or something like that, just after seed round. And I was cocky going in, being like, I know everything. I'm going to be the best because I was so good at Auvik, but I didn't realize I was so good at Auvik because they were well established. But I went into this new company early on and quickly realized, hey, I don't know everything. And I did my best, and I think I did a really good job at what I was doing, but the confidence wasn't there, and I lost a lot of confidence, and I think that held me back a bit. And throughout my 3 years there, I learned a lot, and I learned a lot from the MSP community, especially because our product was directly solving their issues through automation. And I think what happens with a lot of people is you get into this space where you do what you do, like you're a good worker, you do these things, but you work with all these people that you compare yourself to. And especially like in our industry and in startups, you work with a lot of people that are smarter than you. And you hear that as advice, never be the smartest person in the room. But with that, you never hear the downside of that, of how much that actually, like seeing yourself as not the smartest person in the room or not as smart as everybody
Yeah,
else actually affects your own confidence in things.
yeah.
So although I would consider I was successful in what I did at my last company, um, I think I could have done a lot better if I had the confidence to speak up more and to trust myself to make decisions and know the knowledge that I had. Fast forward 3 years of that company, I get laid off in January. And
Yeah.
at that point, I was on my team. I was on the support team, and I was like, my KPIs were great. I was the second highest support person because, like, I have a bit of an ego, so I have to make sure I'm up there at the top.
Can I
And
stop you real quick to
yeah,
ask you a question?
go for it.
Before we jump into that and like the next steps, when you said you lost confidence going into that new role, what do you mean? So you went from Avik to a new role and you said your confidence was like shaken because you were like a kick ass rock star, at Avik because it was a well established company. Explain the loss of confidence or the less confidence you were feeling.
So I was really good at Avik, not so much because of me, but because of the processes that Avik had developed over 10 years of them existing. So they've done the hard part. They're an established company. I go in there, I'm just following their processes. And that's what set me up to be successful. Sure, like I knew the MSP space from working there, and I had the confidence of like issues that MSPs had with like network monitoring and network issues and how Avik solves them. But the playbooks I'm following were not created by me. They were created by people that understood process. So a lot of the confidence I had came from people laying the path for me and making that process that they know is tried, true, tested,
Mm-hmm.
works over a 10-year span. I go to this new company, it's a startup, there is no process. So I don't have that thing to fall back to. So when I go in there and I'm like, okay, great, I was so good at onboarding at Havik, but this is a new product, a new platform, new challenges, and nobody has established what those processes are. And it's up to me to establish them
Yes.
in a very hard, or not, I wouldn't say hard, but a very technical product and a bit of a learning curve to learn, and I have to figure out a path to help customers learn it. So my confidence there was shot. The difference is I was in network monitoring. So I was in a single silo for MSPs. Where now at this new automation company, that silo's broken down. It's now, how do we automate processes throughout all of MSPs, like the whole MSP, like service desk, knock, all these security, everything, all these stacks, which I've never been exposed to before. I only knew network. And there were all these challenges. Like we would always do like user onboard, and it's like, how do we automate user onboard? I'm like, I don't even know how user onboarding works. And
Yeah.
we're a startup and I'm supposed to be the expert and I have no idea. So it was a lot of customers training me and not so much me training customers.
Well, and
So that
every customer's different.
exactly. And every
Yeah.
customer's customer is different. So
Yep.
it was all these use cases that I had to learn on the fly. And I did, but that confidence of like not like going into something or talking to someone and not immediately knowing the answer and like having to admit to people, I have no idea. But let me take this back and I'll figure it out for you and we'll talk about it next week and I'll probably have an answer. That was a skill I developed very quick at my last company was
Okay.
let me take
Thank
this
you
back.
for now that paints like such a clear picture. Thank you
Yeah.
for explaining that. Because anytime you go into the unknown, it's scary until you know. And you gave away your Canadianism by saying process, by the way. But by knowing those processes and how important it is to document, so that the people around you can also learn.
Exactly.
And
Exactly. And
then
that's
comes,
hard. It's so hard in a startup because you realize that you have this issue, this gap in where you are with a startup, and you need someone to come in and build the process. There's no process to start.
yeah.
And me coming from a place that had 10 years of process, I wasn't there when it was built. So I didn't have the experience to do that.
Okay,
But
so
yeah, I
we come to the point of the layoff, and you're thinking, "Oh crap!"
oh
Like,
crap.
yeah, you figured it out. Everything's running, everything's doing great, and then
I
a
still,
layoff.
yeah, at that point when I was laid off, I still had that mentality. Like I carried it for 3 years of I don't really know what I'm doing, and I'm fumbling my way through this job because I didn't realize my 3 years there, I was actually accumulating all this knowledge, how
Hmm.
MSP's process works, how like what issues they face, how automation solves them. Um, so come layoff time, uh, big sinking feeling of like,
Yeah,
first off was like, oh no, why me? Second
right.
off, how do I feed my family? Obviously, I don't have a job. Third
It's a
off, it's
pretty
like,
big burden.
yeah, pretty big burden. But third off, it was like, okay, well, to me, I don't feel like I have any skills, right? I fumbled my way through this. I know one product extremely well. How is that going to translate to anyone anywhere else? Uh, but what came with that was like a few things. So I had a bit of security because I had an emergency fund. So I was like, how do I feed my family? It's like, okay, I know I've saved up enough. Like I could
Hmm.
last 3 6 months feed my family. So I had that security off. Second off, how do I get another job, which is the big one? Um, I sat there on the couch and I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. So I messaged Ashley Cooper, who I worked with at my last company, and I've worked with at Avic. And I was like, hey, like, I pretty much just cried and just like trauma dumped my whole layoff
Yeah.
experience with her. I was like, what do I do? And that was kind of like my first experience of like the MSP community rallying for other people there, where she was like,
Mhm.
listen, like, well, I was already doing a bit of contract work for CyberDrain at the time. So she was like, listen, like, we'll find something to do with your hours. I'll talk to like Dustin, like, and Calvin, we'll get something going so that you can just survive as you find something else. And I was like, amazing. Perfect. The next thing that happened is because obviously obviously my last company, I don't want to mention them, but I just did. But my last company, I started getting messages from people I worked with. And it was like, hey, like, sorry to see you go, but I forward your information off to these people
Mhm.
and this vendor and all these people. And I was like, whoa. That was my first hit of like, you don't reach out to someone if you don't see value in them like that,
Yeah.
right? So it was my first hit of these people I was working with saw value in me, because you don't reach out unless you see the value. And then I made my LinkedIn post after that. And when I wrote on LinkedIn, I started getting an outpouring of condolences and people trying to find me a job from the MSP community. And it wasn't necessarily vendors, it was customers I worked with.
Mhm.
And I was like, these people see value in me. So from that, I was like, I clearly, as an individual, have value to other people. And it was a feeling I've never had before. And it wasn't ever because it wasn't there for me. It was because I never took the time to see the value in myself. So it was a
Honestly,
very,
the opportunity for them to show you how valuable you are would not have come without a layoff.
exactly. Exactly. And I was
Yeah.
getting MSPs messaging me being like, hey, like, heard about your layoff. That's really like, it sucks, but I'm going to talk to my boss and see if we can get you a job here. And I'm like, okay, what qualifications do I have to be working at an MSP? None. But then I think about it, I'm like, well, I know their processes, I know how to automate. I'm like, yeah,
Yeah.
I can't have value in that space. And I can't have value to other vendors. And that shifted my focus so quick to now listen, like I have this value. Now it's not I'm desperate to get a job. It's like I can find a job that I
Mhm.
want. So
Yeah.
that's when I started to be like, okay, well, what do I want from a company? What did I love from the company that I just left? And what I loved
Yeah.
from them and Avik was I bled their colors. Like I absolutely loved the product that they sold and I loved talking about it and I think it was actually useful. So my first thing was it has to be a cool product.
Yeah.
The second thing I thought of was like, who do I want to be? And when I think of people in our space, I'm like, the first person I always think about is Kelvin, like
Mhm.
from CyberDrain, because I'm like, nobody has more fun than Kelvin. So I was like, how do I do that? And I was like, companies that also have as much fun as Kelvin, this company I just left. It's people like Hoodoo, Finn, Imibot. Like you see that the
Mhm.
conferences that like you look at their booth, you take one look and you're like, that's probably a fun company to work. And then that made me think of what I want to do next. And it and I said this in my interviews that I had with people and other vendors. It was like they would always be like, what role do you want? And I was like, I don't care about the role I do. I now have this new confidence that I can do anything. But I
Mhm.
figured out what environment I excel in. So it's like I have to be customer facing because I love talking
Yeah.
to MSPs. I love just talking to people. So that's a requirement. So that's CS, community sales, anything. And then it was like I have to work for a company that I truly believe in, that I can bleed their colors and
Yeah.
provides a value, or else like I'm kind of just BSing people, which I don't want to do.
Yeah.
And from that, it's like I don't really care what I do at a company. I know that I have value because it's been shown to me. And as long as I work for something I believe in with really cool people, I will be successful. And that realization set me free. So now in my new role, all right, like I joined Neo Agent. Um, I was very confident going in. So I like went during contract negotiations. I was like, I get to pick whatever contract, whatever conferences I go to, and you can't say no. And they were like, sure. But what's really cool is now I go into this role, and it's the same place that my last company was at, like size wise, where it was like I joined pre-seed here, and it's like I have this different outlook where it's they see me as the expert and they trust me and my knowledge
Mhm.
of MSP space. and I can go and speak up for people. And I know my
Yeah.
opinion's going to be heard, and I can. No, I'm not going to say I can do whatever I want, but I can express myself and feel valued. And even if my ideas are rejected, which they are from time to time, everyone's are, it's like I know I'm coming from a place of confidence and
Yeah.
expertise, and I speak up, and I feel so much more involved and loved and appreciated. And I don't wish that everybody in the world get laid off, but I wish everybody experience truly being appreciated at a company and realizing their potential. Because really, when I think
Yeah.
of my last company, it wasn't other people that held me back. It wasn't the company. It wasn't the product. It was myself. It was my confidence. And I have that now, and I'm absolutely thriving.
I'm so proud of you.
Thank
Like,
you.
I don't mean that like, condescending or anything like that, but some people can't see, they're so taken down or traumatized, whatever the word is, that they're in a slump and they don't move forward. But when you
Yeah,
have a community like the MSP channel, I've never worked in an industry that everybody just wants to help. They even
exactly.
help their competitors,
Exactly.
and there's enough business, there's enough people, there's enough problems to solve. When I was laid off from my last company, Gradient, where I worked with Ashley Cooper, um, Colin helped, the founder of Gradient helped us, like, he put me in contact with Finn, and he's like, Mary, what do you want to do? And I'm like, I just want to help people, and he's like, you're going to do that no matter where you go. So, like, for him
Yeah,
to tell me that, like, I know he had to make some terrible business decisions, that were not fun, but it was for the business. It wasn't a personal thing that I was laid off, but then to see where I am now, like where you are now, is you're with a good company, good people, doing the right thing.
exactly. And that's the thing is it's so much dependent on the community we're in, right? I see all these layoffs from Amazon, Microsoft just recently did it, and I'm like, these people being laid off, I don't think are in such a close knit community that the
No.
MSP space is. Whereas like Ashley Cooper told me this once, and I don't know if she made it up or she quoting someone else, but it's like you're one person removed from everybody. If you know one person in the MSP space, you know absolutely everybody. And it's that community and like being so close to everybody that like when you go to a conference, it's the same vendors, it's the same people, maybe they work at a different vendor, the same
Yeah.
MSPs and all these people, and it's that relationship and that camaraderie, like that teamwork that lifts us all up. Like Mendy Green says, like a rising tide raises all ships, and this is the industry that lives to that motto more than any other.
Yes, I totally agree with you. Well, we went 2 minutes over. This was a great topic. And I really appreciate you finding me at Beyond and being able to connect like this.
Thank
I
you
know
for
you're in
having me.
your office, but I'm at a conference in Erie, Pennsylvania. I believe it's the Erie Bay. And then if you go over that island over there, then you're in the Great Lake. So it's been a different experience for me to do this, but I'm just so glad we connected.
I'm so glad that we connected too, because I just want to share to people that they have value and it's
Yes.
there. Believe in
Yes.
yourself.
Yep, I agree. All right, we are signing off 3 minutes late officially, but thank you so much, and I'm sure I'll see you on the road at some point.
Yeah, thanks for having me.